everybody. My name is Michael Elliott, and I'll be moderating what I imagine is one of the sessions that people have been looking forward to most. It's less than a year now before the Summer Olympic Games start in Beijing, and I know from the conversations that I've been having at this fabulous meeting that we've had this week, how many people are looking forward to being in Beijing next summer, in person if they can, otherwise in spirit, watching it on TV or on the internet or what have you. And so to talk about some of the issues that are confronting China, Beijing, the Olympics movement, and all interested in it, we've assembled our star-studded cast this morning. So I'll quickly introduce the four panelists who are with us, and then we can get going. Let's see what order we're in. On my very, very far right, man who needs little introduction, I suspect, Maurice Lévy, the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Publicis Group, of course one of the world's leading collection of advertising agencies, and a member of the Foundation Board of the Forum. Next to him, joining the panel, so he may not be on your program, is David Li of the Center for the Study of the Chinese and World Economy at Tsinghua University. David, I've probably got the words in slightly the wrong order, but an economist at Tsinghua, Harvard educated. Next to David is Bernard Bourigeaud, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Atos Origine, I guess, from France, whose company is an extremely well-known company, of course, will be doing much of the IT logistics for the Games. And then on my immediate right is Pan Gang, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of the Yili Industrial Group of China, dairy products, one of China's leading dairy products group, sponsor of the Olympics, headquartered in Mongolia. I'd like to start with David Li and Pan Gang first. I think it would be good if we kicked off this discussion with some Chinese voices, as it were, rather than those of us who are just visiting. And what I'd like to ask them to do to kind of get our conversation started is to tell us what the Olympics means in the mind of China. Is it a sports event? Is it a moment of announcing that China is back as a major economic power? Is it a vehicle for economic development? Is it a vehicle for the reconstruction of Beijing? How are people thinking of the Olympics a year away from the start? David, would you like to start, perhaps?
Yes, it's a great question. Okay, frankly, China is a large country, and it's hard to talk about a consensus on any particular issue. And on this issue of Beijing Olympics, I think there are basically two kinds of thinkings on this issue. For people on the street, it is an event showcasing China's opening and economic development for the past 30 years. So it's a showtime in the minds of most people, and also at the same time for the decision makers in the government, especially the central government. It is not only a showcase of China's coming back to the world stage. It is also an event of commitment, a commitment for China to show that to continue its current path of economic development and opening up. And it's also a device for the government to push for further reforms and further policy changes.
Pan Gang.
伊利集团是中国乳品行业唯一一家为奥运会提供乳制品的企业。那么我们能够成为奥运会提供乳制品的企业，可以说呢是经过了奥组委非常严格的这个评选考核。那么也可以说呢，伊利代表了中国乳品的最高的一个品质。那么我举一个例子啊，就说过去呢，我们一谈奥运会啊，大家更多的可能就想到是金牌。那么我们中国拿了多少块金牌，或者谁是拿到第一块金牌？ 那么现在呢，就是在我来达沃斯之前，就参加这个夏季达沃斯论坛之前，我是在北京。我在北京电视台呢看到了这个电视台在采访一个出租车司机，那么叫董事成的这样的一个司机。那么他为了迎接奥运呢，在刻苦的在学习英语，英语水平非常高。那么通过他的服务，通过他的外语的水平，那么他已经和200多位在北京的外国的朋友建立了非常好的这个交往和合作。那么甚至有一些外交官都要包他的出租车。那么同时呢，他在业余时间呢，他还要教他的这个一个车队的很多他的队友来学习外语。而且北京的很多出租车司机的这个朋友啊，车上都放着一个外语的一个小册子。那么我们通过这个例子呢，我来说明一个问题，就是说奥运会来到中国呢，不仅在影响着中国城市的变化、经济的发展，同时呢，也对整个中国人的素质、国民的素质是一个全面的提升。就是说，出租车司机，包括我们各行各业的人士，大家呢都在因为奥运而改变。
Bernard, until I was talking to you a few minutes ago, I hadn't quite realized how complex these games are compared with others that you've handled. Give us a little sense of the complexity, and then give us an honest assessment. We're all friends here, of the extent to which everything's ready.
Well, first of all, as a company, we've done 3 games already. We did Salt Lake City, Athens, and Torino. And we've got 3 games to go. The Beijing Games next year, the Vancouver Winter Games in 2010, and the London Games in 2012. And we won the contract last year in Singapore. I believe let me explain first what we do for the games. We manage all the accreditation system for about 200,000 people. Then we really manage the game. We are the internal IT of the games. For example, we help the organization to recruit the volunteers, to manage the volunteers, and in Beijing, we believe there will be between 60,000 and 70,000 volunteers, against 50,000 most of the games previously. And we also manage the sporting results that we relay to the rest of the world real time. So in order to do that, we deploy a network of 10,000 PCs, 1,000 servers, thousands of printers, fully secured network. And the great difficulty of the IT at the games is that everything has got to be ready on time. So the Beijing Games will start on the 8th of August 2008 at 8 p.m. and there is no excuse. At 8 p.m. I cannot go to the chairman of the International Olympic Committee and say that we're going to be late. So it's a difficult exercise. So what we do, we normally prepare 4 years in advance. So we have had a team in China for the past 4 years, and 1 year before the games, and it just took place, there is what we call the test events. So we do real-time competition to verify that everything is going well. And 1 year before the games, before the start of the games, we freeze all the developments, right, so that nothing can happen. The difference between, and obviously each game is different, and Beijing will be different in many aspects. First of all, obviously the language will be different, and at the games, as you know, you have 3 languages: English, French, and the language of the country. But also what will create additional difficulty is the fact that the games will take place in several locations. There will be Hong Kong, 3.5 hours by plane, Qingdao, Beijing. Altogether, there will be 7 different locations. And the organization of the games has got to make sure that the same quality is going to be produced at every location. Communication is also an important issue. I can say today that after the test events, we believe that we are well on time and that everything is going fine. And I just want to mention that an additional difficulty is the fact that as a global systems integrator, we've got to work with international partners like Samsung or Mega for the time recording, the local telecom operators, but also with BOCOG, who's got the overall responsibility of the games, and with the International Olympic Committee. And we need to do that, having influence on all these people without having any direct authority.
Right.
But what's great about the games is that it does create such a motivation in the various teams that when there is any difficulty during the games, and there are difficulties every day which are not visible from the public, what is amazing is the fact that everyone is working towards solving the issue. And that's great.
Maurice, give us a quick snapshot. Oh, sorry, let me just follow up with a very, very quick question to Bernard to prepare us for something later on. You said 200,000 accreditations. Do a quick breakdown of who those people are.
Well, the 200,000 people are what is called the Olympic family.
Right.
During the games, you normally have, summer games, you have about 10,000 athletes.
Mm-hmm.
But you have 25,000 journalists, many TV channels, probably more than 220 TV channels. And the rest of the people are people with the athletes.
Right.
So for one athlete, you have got about 20 people. And the coaches, doctors, and cooks, you know, and people who haven't got a precise role, but there are many people in the Olympic family.
Motivational inspirations. Maurice, give us a quick sense of how the Beijing 2008 Games are being viewed by the business community globally. I mean, are your clients seeing this as a tremendous opportunity to do branding, to get products and messages across a worldwide audience?
Before that, I will make a comment. I think that the organization thought that Bernard and myself were the very good specialists of Olympic Games because France failed, I do not know how many times, to get the Games. That was probably the reason why we have been chosen to be part of that panel.
As a Londoner, I thought I'd let you say that rather than say it myself.
I wanted to avoid that you make a misstep. You know, I have a great respect for you, so I didn't want that you make a wrong joke. When we look at the Olympic Games, we should have two different views. One which is the Chinese situation in China for our clients, be they international or local clients. And this is something which we never experienced before.
Really? This
Never.
is on a new level?
It has nothing to do with what happened in Athens. It has nothing to do with what was in Atlanta. It is an event which is a national event which goes far beyond the show, far beyond the sport. It is showcasing the country. People are very proud of this. People are, you have just to do something that they have done these last 2 days, which was to try to see what was going on TV. And you have all the day long, at least the night long, shows on Olympics. People speaking about Olympic Games, what will happen 1 year ahead of what will happen. So it's huge. It's huge. It's something that we never saw in any given country before. That is one aspect. The second aspect is that obviously all our clients in this country want to be part of. They are the people who have paid, and obviously they are sponsored and they have the right to use the logo, and they are part of it, and these people obviously invest a lot. And there are the people who have not the fortune or the means or the possibility of being a sponsor. And they want to take advantage of the game. So they are playing around the games. I can tell you something which never happened before in the Publicis Group organization, is that we have from each of our clients, and we have quite a lot in this country, a briefing around the Olympic Games. So it's a very difficult exercise for our creative people to find a solution which is different, which is showing that they are part of the country, that they are motivated, that they have the same emotion, and at the same time being different from the other. Right. So it's huge. That is for China. When you are outside China, the approach has nothing to do with this. It is a very rational approach, which has to do with will the people will be viewing the games, how they will be viewing the games. We notice that due to the difference of time, we will probably see a formidable raise of deferred vision. Right. Right. And the people will see and follow the games probably a lot on internet. There are already some programs which are built on mobile phones to get the information immediately. The technology and the approach will be very different from Athens, which already was a step up from the previous one. If we look now at investment, the information we have to date is that this will represent between 0.8 and 1% more investment than what we should have had in terms of growth. And in terms of creativity, we will have probably something like 20 to 25% of our clients who are focusing on the Olympic Games. So it's huge.
It's fascinating to me that it's so much bigger than anything that you've seen before, than any of the games that you've seen before. 2 or 3 years ago, I was in Beijing over the summer. I think it was 2004, and I was meeting with some people who were involved in the games, and they said to me, thinking of the 25,000 journalists, Bernard, they said to me, what do journalists expect? What do journalists want when they come to an Olympic Games? And I said, I think it's very simple. I said, what do they want? They said that they want to have fun. They think of Sydney, they think of Barcelona as games that were tremendously good fun. And this official who I was talking to looked rather worried and said, oh, really? Is that what they want? And I said, yeah. So here's the question for Pangang and David. Is China ready for a lot of people who intend to arrive in Beijing and expect to have fun? And don't expect to be told where to go, how to spend their time, what to do with their evenings, but just have the sort of time that they remember fondly having in Barcelona in 1992 and in Sydney in 2000. Is Beijing ready for that? David, do you want to go?
Well, I think it's the process of confidence building leading to the very opening of the whole event. What we have been seeing over the past 3 years is that gradually businesses and the governments in China, local and central, are building their confidence. Initially, I think people were kind of worried about the various issues with the game, especially with information opening. Now, gradually, for the past few years, they are gradually opening up, allowing more and more direct reports on the event, lots of more and more opening of events, like live TV coverage of a lot of international events, including public speeches of political leaders, whether foreign or domestic. I think these events leading to the final opening of the Olympic Games have helped build the confidence in China in helping them strengthening their confidence in dealing with foreign reporters and with many other issues. So I am confident in the end.
就是北京奥运呢，实际是一个全民的奥运。就是我们不仅是国家在服务、交通各方面呢都做好准备，那么各行各业的人就是都在参与。那么就从这个我们是做乳业的，那么乳业就说你应该为北京奥运应该承担什么样的责任？那么实际从北京一申请奥运，取得这个奥运的承办权一成功之后，那么作为乳品行业的这个龙头企业、领导企业，那么我们就已经树立一个责任，就是要为来到北京参加奥运的世界各国的这种体育精英、各界人士，要提供你最好的乳制品。那么我们在企业内部呢，无论从管理、在品质、在创新、产品研发方面呢，实际已经做了全面的一个提升。那么我们经过几年的时间，实际呢就是在中国呀，很多这个消费者呢是不能喝牛奶的。虽然牛奶是世界公认的是一个非常好的营养食品，那么我们亚洲人口，包括中国人，有70%、80%是都不能喝牛奶。那么喝了牛奶之后呢，它会出现这个腹胀呀或者不舒服这种感觉，实际呢是叫乳糖不耐症。那么伊利集团呢，经过这几年时间的大力的一个投入，我们开发出营养舒化奶，那么它的解决率达到96.6%。这样呢，就是说实际通过这种技术的创新，我们为北京奥运也是在做贡献，就是说给消费者提供最优质的产品，包括我们推出的这个叫经典系列牛奶，也是专门为奥运会来开发研制的。那么这款产品呢，也代表了世界最高的、最好的一个水平。那么同时呢，就说为准备迎接奥运，我们需要的就是企业不仅要为消费者提供好的产品，在这个身体素质上，包括为我们来自世界各地的朋友们提供最好的产品。同时呢，我们还要倡导一种精神，要传播奥运。那么我们在全国也开展了大型的这个叫奥运健康中国行的活动，就是说要把奥运这种理念、这种精神、全民健康的这种意识和精神，要带到全国的各个城市、各个社区。那么到目前为止呢，我们在中国已经开展了覆盖了660个城市，已经有2000多个社区的这种大型的这种全民健康公益活动，那么也取得了非常好的效果，对整个呢这个全民参与奥运都是一种积极的推动。好，谢谢。
May I follow up the point of
David, yeah, come on.
Yes. I think it's also a big exercise of reassessment of cost and benefits in policy making. Previously, government officials used to think that many things, good things, are too costly. For example, controlling traffic jam, reducing traffic jam, or reducing air pollution in Beijing would be very difficult. It will take many years for this to happen. Now, before the Olympics, the government made the commitment to reduce traffic jam by ordering that 1/2 of the cars, private cars, are not allowed to go to the street, right? About 1 month ago. And it happened that people discovered it's not so bad. The benefit is huge. The cost is reasonable. So this gives confidence for them to push for further reforms, further policies, more policies.
I guess the point I'm driving at is this. I hear everything that you say about environmental change and what will happen on the streets, to traffic and so on. But when you get 200,000 people descending on a city from all over the world, unpredictable things happen, to put it mildly. And at many of the last Olympic Games, we've seen unpredictable things happen. Beijing and China is a society that runs on plans and predictability. Are they ready for unpredictable things happening, for journalists doing things that are unexpected, for athletes doing things that are unexpected? Is prepared for the unexpected that will undoubtedly happen when you have 200,000 people from all over the world descending on a city. Bernard, do you want to have a go at that?
Well, I think the answer is that the organizers are trying to investigate all the possible scenarios to happen. On the technology side, I can tell you that with our partners in Athens, for example, in Turin, we studied 700 different scenarios. And it seemed that each game we had a new scenario. So it will be the same situation. So I think we are trying to make it as predictable as possible. And most people prepare themselves for a period of 4 years. Right. But if you allow me, I believe personally that when the games take place in a country, the country is so proud. It does create a tremendous motivation for the government, for the corporations, for the population, and it does drive, in my view, good behavior in most of the countries. We've seen that in Athens. Traffic, if you've been to Athens, sure, is awful. For the games, it was absolutely fine. There was absolutely no problem at all. And I think the same probably will happen in Beijing. But I also want to say that there will be, in my view, tremendous benefits for China with the Olympic Games. There will be a double positive effect. First of all, people, and more people, will realize the capabilities of China. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you're able as a country to put together and make it work well an event such as the Olympic Games is great. Right. And at the same time, the many international people visiting China will open the mind of Chinese here. So I think this kind of event for me is extremely positive for the country.
Maurice, you wanted to come in?
Yes, I would like to make a small comment. We know that Chinese government is very, very sensitive to the image of the country, to the point that we have seen recently a decision which has been taken because there has been a product which was not correctly manufactured, and not only there was a question of recall, but we have seen some reaction which were very, very tough. So this government is particularly sensitive to all issues of image. And the question is, how can they react if there is something a little bit a la Mexico 1968 on a podium? And there is not much. So what they have to learn probably is to deal with the unexpected and to accept that, okay, Olympic Games is not only something which is fun, which is a kind of a formidable thing for the world, a formidable window, but there can be some accident and they have to accept accident. So it could be a way to deal with the unexpected on a positive aspect, which is, yes, we cannot control everything. And if this is the benefit, I think it should be something great. Right. Because they can't control everything.
A learning experience, if you like. Yeah.
I believe so.
David, sorry, go ahead, David. Yeah.
I think the moment Beijing decided to go for the bid of the Olympics, they were already willing to accept this kind of so-called risks, right? So long as on major issues, on major events, there are no big problems. Right. That's my observation.
Now, you live in Beijing, and I guess the rest of us visit periodically, some of us more often than others, no doubt, and all of us know what Beijing's pollution is like. All of us know what Beijing's air quality is like. Bernard, David, anyone, what are the realistic assessments and prognoses of what the air quality will be like in August 2008?
I think for the event itself, the traffic issue will be properly resolved because, frankly, the government is still very powerful in Beijing and in China, right? So they are able to deal with these issues quite easily. For
so
good
if they say don't drive a car, people won't drive a car. Okay, all right, got it.
For good or for bad.
Useful to have that sort of power and authority. Actually, yeah.
The air pollution issue is trickier because it takes time. It should start like a few months, or at least 1 month before the games, for the air to clean up, and also it takes some kind of special technologies which they are experimenting now on controlling the crowd or even the wind and the local weather condition. They have been experimenting on that one, at the issue, I know for sure. And so overall, I'm not so worried. What I'm concerned is about the aftermath of the event, whether some good impact or good practice will continue after the events, or whether business will go back to normal in the area in the issue of air pollution.
Bernard, have you had discussions on air quality in your visits to Beijing?
Not much, but normally when a country gets the Olympic Games, it pushes a country to adopt sort of kind of best international practice and regulation, and in most cases you will find that those practices remain after the Games. So let's be hopeful.
We shall see. Probably time to take some questions from the audience, and I can see hands going up immediately. Do wait for a microphone to come around, and please state your name and affiliation.
My name is Yong Zhang, Center for Overseas Development of Chinese Enterprises. I have a question about the opening ceremony. So in your imagination, how will the opening ceremony should look like in order to have global artistic appeal while demonstrating the national pride and national beauty? Thank you.
Maurice,
I will start. I cannot say a lot because one of our units, one of our department is working on the opening ceremony. So we have Publicis event with part of the team working on this ceremony. So
give us a flavor. Come on, give us a flavor.
What I can tell you is that it is something which is taken very, very seriously, and they want to astonish the world, and they believe they will.
Of course, the opening ceremony, I should say, has already been the focus. Even though people don't know what's in it, but has already been the focus for some activists campaigning against Chinese policy in Africa and other places. Has the extent to which some aspects of these games are controversial, has that aspect been effectively reported in China? More questions. Sorry, do you want to come on? Okay. Yeah.
Jack McGee from the Justice Institute of British Columbia and the Vancouver Board of Trade. We have been listening to the economic growth projections for China for the past few days. And I'm interested in how much you attribute the Olympics playing in recent data with respect to the economic growth in China, and what impact do you see following the Games? Do you see the sustainability of the economic growth in this country following the Games, or do you see some adverse effects when the Games are over?
Yeah. Well, I believe that growth in China started before, much longer before the Games, obviously, and growth will continue. Today, China is well known and very strong in the manufacturing sector. I believe that one of the main benefits of the Games will be to help accelerating the development of services. And with strong manufacturing entities and with the fast development of services, myself being the CEO of a technology company, I am convinced that in the next 5 years, we're going to see a fast development of technology companies, whether they're IT service company or software companies. And no doubt that the growth in the IT sector will be faster here than in many other countries. And it will be strong and sustainable because it will be based on a strong local economy. And that will be a major difference with India, where the development of major Indian companies is based on North America and also on Europe.
Right, right. Pan Gang, do you see the Olympic Games as having been an incentive to develop new capabilities among Chinese companies?
奥运会呢，一个是对中国企业来说呢，是面临着一次机遇，同时呢，中国企业肩上的责任也感觉到更大了。那么我们能看到呢，就是说在这个亚洲的其他国家，像日本和韩国，由于这个奥运会呢，让这些国家的很多企业呢迅速腾飞，像我们韩国的三星，包括日本呢，像在这个奥运会之前呀，日本的这个消费者呢，对这个奶酪呀等等这些乳制品的消费量是非常的少。那么一个奥运会就能让它的奶酪在日本有一个快速的成长，甚至几十倍的一个成长。那么在韩国同样是有这个现象。那么对中国来说呢，我们认为这是面临着非常好的一次机遇。一个呢，促进中国企业不断的去创新、去发展，同时呢，就说也能够建立起一些大的一些品牌，因为中国的市场太大了。那么我举一个例子，就是中国目前的人均乳制品的消费量，在城市里边，大中城市只有不到20公斤。那么农村一些乡镇才是3公斤左右。那么在国外，就是我们周边的这些国家，像日本，它搞了一个白色革命，那么一杯牛奶强壮一个民族，让日本人的这个牛奶的消费量呢由20公斤涨到了70、80公斤。那么韩国包括其他的印度这些国家呢，都有一个快速的成长。就是说，凡是举办过奥运会的这些城市，举办完奥运会之后，人们这种观念在发生变化，那么经济在发展，市场需求在扩大。那么我相信中国也一定会是这样的一个结果。
What? I was about to ask a question myself, but there's a gentleman beat me to it.
Bill Rylance from Bursa Marstella. Let me preface my question by saying I think there's very few of us who would disagree that this will be a watershed event for China and a spectacular showcase for the culture and the infrastructure and the development and for Chinese cheese, no doubt. But it's
two specific brand sponsor this event, and everyone has in the memory what happened to Nike. It's not exactly the same issue. It's not exactly the same magnitude of problem, but it is something which is a real concern. I would like to complete the question regarding the answer regarding the question you posed a few minutes ago. I think for the Chinese people, this event is something that we Western people do not understand, and we do not understand the magnitude of what this does represent for China. It is second to none of the event that we have seen, even in small countries where Olympic Games were representing a huge event. It has to do with not only showcasing the country, not only showcasing the fact that they have made a huge progress, not only showcasing the fact that they have growth, but it is also about national pride. And this country has been locked for some 50 years, and it is opening up. So it's something which is absolutely huge. And regarding the growth, there is something which has not been probably scripted, but it happens that immediately after the Olympic Games, there is two major events. One is the Asian Games, which will happen in 2010, and the other one is the Expo. And the Expo will happen also in 2010 in Shanghai. So it's not a blip which will happen, it's a blip followed by another blip in a trend which is like this. So
I think it's one issue to be of concern. That is, currently, before the game starts, there is already kind of irrational, in my opinion, irrational optimism in our equity market, in our asset market, housing market, stock price, and that price is too high, way too high, unsupported by our fundamentals. So it's possible that after the games, when the optimism is gone, the stock price goes down, and together with it, there will be wealth effects, so that will slow down the economy. And doesn't help the picture is the very likely slowdown of the world economy led by the US. So that will create certain kind of negative impact on the economic growth after 2008. By the way, which is not too bad, because I think the economy is growing too fast, with sacrificing efficiency. So a slight slowdown after the game, I think is reasonable.
Maurice, can I just kind of pick up a point that you made a few minutes ago on the magnitude of the games for China, the involvement of national pride, the inability for people outside China to kind of grasp exactly how big this is. And I guess it is precisely that that makes me and I think others worry that unpredictability, or the unpredictable event, actually has a very substantial risk. In the ceremonies a year before the game started, just a few weeks ago, the Chinese authorities repeated, as every organizing committee always does, that the Olympic Games is not about politics. And that is said every 4 years, not just by the Chinese, said everywhere. The fact of the matter is that the Olympic Games have been about politics for a long time, and politics have involved themselves in Olympic Games for a long time. Not in the last few games, it must be said, not in the last few games. But there have certainly been occasions, you mentioned '68, the Moscow boycott, the LA boycott, and what have you, where politics has very much, I shouldn't be talking so much, but anyway, I will, where politics has injected itself into the games. And I guess what interests me is whether the Chinese authorities are ready for that.
Okay, I'm not a specialist of the Chinese politics. First of all, I think that you cannot separate the games from politics. People who think that it is something different are wrong, unfortunately or fortunately. It is something which is part of our life. Olympic Games are, above all, a political game. People are fighting to get it, and the government is behind, and this is true in China, this is true in London, this is true everywhere. I differ a little bit from my friend David, because I believe that if there is some growing protest, it will not be easy to deal with, not only because this will be publicized on a worldwide basis, even if it is very small, as something big. So I'm not sure that it will be that easy, because people are galvanized to deal with this kind of issue. And when it's outside China, it will be relatively easy, because this is something which already exists. When it will be in China, and if there is, I don't know, somebody winning a gold medal and saying something or showing something, it will be there. Or if at the opening ceremony there is somebody showing a board or a poster or whatever, maybe it will not be seen on CCTV, but it will be seen on the world stage. And I think that this may happen, and the best thing which can happen to this country is that it is accepted.
Exactly. Yeah. Question right at the front.
Thank you. I think the panelists...
Could you just say your name?
My name is Zhu Yinghuang from China Day. The panelists all sound quite optimistic about Beijing's ability to hold a successful Olympic Games. While Chinese should be proud of the fact that Beijing is able to hold such a game, big game, of unprecedented scale, there are a number of thorny issues to be solved or being solved. My question is, if there is anything that should worry you or worry Chinese, what would that be? Also about the China's image. What kind of image you believe China should convey to the outside through holding the games? Thank you.
Bernard, you're in the thick of it. If there's anything that worries you, what is it?
Well, it's obviously something that we haven't predicted. It's, and Maurice has said that, but it's, you know, each game. If I take previous games, maybe some of you will remember that in Torino, during the closing ceremony, somebody got on stage in spite of the high security level and got close to Jacques Rogge, and the guy who was presenting. So, you know, anything can happen. Hopefully, I think the organizing committee has worked so hard to avoid this. I go along with Maurice to say that China will have to accept the unpredictable, and I think they will. I just want to make a comment about sponsoring, because at Origin we are one of the top sponsors of the International Olympic Committee. And as such, obviously we have received letters from people who are against the Games. There are two solutions. I think boycotting the Games or having the Games. I think having the Games is much better because it forces the issue. It forces the countries to react. So I think it's much more positive. So I believe that having the Games in Beijing will certainly help an evolution of mind in China. So let's be positive about this.
Pan Gang, is there anything that worries you? And then David come in too. Is there anything that worries you that Beijing is not ready for? Do you want to go first? Yeah.
就是我们对这个中国政府呢，确实这个能力啊是充满信心，因为从以往的就说我们一些大型的活动呀，可能已经给了大家这种信心。你像这个今天是达沃斯夏季论坛，我是去年参加这个瑞士达沃斯的论坛，那么我就有一个感受，当我到了这个瑞士达沃斯的时候呢，因为这个小镇呀比较小，但是呢是3步一岗5步一哨，很多都是荷枪实弹的士兵，那么确实给人一种很压抑的一种感觉。当然是可能这个会议呢确实有很多这个各国的政要来参与，但是今天呢我们在中国举办这个夏季达沃斯的时候，我们在大连我们就能有这种感受，确实大家很轻松，而且这个环境也特别好，服务也特别好，就说这也充分表明我们中国人是有能力办好奥运会的。好，谢谢。
Very good.
I agree with Pan Gang's point. Let me say that the Chinese government's comparative advantage, in our economist view, words, right, is organizing large events like this, including our Davos World Economic Forum. Okay, this is our government's comparative advantage. It's able to mobilize resources in a short period of time. However, what the government cannot do is to control events outside China, outside Beijing. When I say that, I refer to a lot of events happening in other parts of the world, like Iran. So I worry about events outside Beijing, which may get in the way of successful progress of the event.
And you've got to keep an eye on the kind of amazingly politically active equestrian community who'll be in Hong Kong. You know, those guys. There's no telling what those guys will get up to. More questions, please. I thought I saw one over this side. Yeah, I'm sorry, right at the back.
潘刚董事长你好，我是来自中华工商时报的记者。今天我想对你提出的问题呢是，目前伊利乳业已经是全国乳业的龙头老大了，但是呢，你们是唯一没有外资入股的企业，这就使你们呢比其他企业呢多交了很多税。当然，这只是据说了。 而我想在今天呢，具体的了解一下这方面的情况。而面对这种情况，你又有多大的压力？谢谢。
Well, just can we stay on Olympics matters rather than on comparative taxation matters? Actually.
Sorry, but I think it's related with Olympics because Ely Group is a sponsor of Olympic Games. Thanks.
Very quickly. I defer. I'm way too polite and yeah.
那我简单说一下，因为中国的市场呢确实非常好，尤其是像这个问题啊，实际跟这个奥运会确实也有一定的关系，因为有奥运，更增强了就是国际大的乳品企业对中国市场的这个期待，包括这种市场发展的这种看好。那么全球的大的乳品企业呢，前30名几乎都已经进入中国。那么进入中国之后呢，因为在这个市场竞争中呢，就是我们本土的企业通过自主创新、自主发展还是有一定的优势。那么在这个竞争中取得了优势。那么在这种情况下呢，国外这很多企业呢开始采取这种兼并整合的这种方式。那么到目前呢，大的乳品企业中也只有伊利一家目前还是中国的企业。那么其他的呢，已经都变成外资了。那么在这种情况下呢，实际伊利已经是参与一个全球的竞争。那么这也是我们为什么能够就是在竞争中得到奥组委的认可，认为伊利呢是最符合奥组委的要求和标准，能够为我们2008年奥运会提供优质的乳制品。那么这也说明呢，在中国就是从伊利这一个例子，说明呢伊利就是中国呀，现在是有能力能够办好奥运会的。所以我们呢，在这个竞争过程中呢，刚才这位女士也讲到，实际我们承受的压力是非常大的，和其他的一些外资企业相比呢，每年要多交7、8个亿的税。但是在这种情况下呢，就说中国有一个非常好的这种环境，那么国家也在出台一些政策，在创造一个公平竞争的环境。那么在未来呢，尤其奥运会给伊利来说呢，带来了新的机遇和发展。好，谢谢。
And a final question to all members of the panel. What is the bigger event in the world these days in terms of consumer interest, TV audience, commercial involvement through sponsorships or what have you? The Football World Cup or the Olympic Games? Maurice?
You have more commercial with the Football World Cup than you have with Olympic Games, because Olympic Games have more strict rules.
Right.
But in terms of audience, you have about the same kind of viewers, eyeballs around the world. The emotion is slightly different. Because it's one game with the football and teams behind, and there is a passion behind, and sometimes some mistakes. And with the Olympic Games, there is a higher level of ethics, supposedly. I guess that what Bernard has forgotten to say in the suite of the people is are the people carrying the steroids. So we have a much stronger code of ethics and a much higher level of objective.
It's interesting.
More generous. It's much more about achievement. It's much more about we are all together. So it's. But it's a bigger event in terms of the higher scale of morale. It is a less bigger in terms of commercial.
Very interesting. I'd like to thank all our panelists this morning: Maurice Lévy, Bernard Bourigeaud, Pang Gang, and David Lee for the time that they've taken and for your questions. Please give them a round of applause.